Amanda from Loops and Love Crochet here, and today I want to give you a peek at this Crochet Ragdoll Penguin crochet pattern that I've been working on. You can find this written crochet pattern free on the blog at loopsandlovecrochet.com. And this penguin here is worked up in the Ragdoll style here. So there's a front panel as well as a back panel, and then we will crochet around the outside to attach them together, add some stuffing, and then we'll add the feet. And then you can embellish your penguin too, or personalize it by adding a scarf or maybe some ear muffs or a bow, just depending on what your preferences are. So I'm just going to grab my yarn and hook here, and I'll get started on showing you how to join together these panels. Okay, so as I just mentioned, this pattern is made up using the Ragdoll style here. So where this pattern's worked up in two separate panels. It's also worked up using the Intarsia crochet technique too, and that's just for the changing colors for the white and the black here. So in this crochet technique, the front of the project stays nice and clean, and the back here you can see where I've carried my yarn back and forth. I just had one ball of black yarn and one ball of white yarn, and I just changed colors, dropped the yarn I wasn't using, and then picked it up when I needed it again. So you can see the black is dragged across each time that I changed colors, and the white kind of worked out to be in the right spot whenever I dropped and picked it up. And then you can see where I sewed the penguin's beak on here and then tied that off, and I have some little ends here from making the eyelashes here, and then I have the back of my safety eyes here. So that's what the back of that panel looks like. And then the second panel is just made up in a solid black color, just for the back of the penguin here. And then so I added the eyes, the eyelashes, and the beak right before, just in the front panel, before I joined the panels together. And then I'm going to add the feet on afterwards, because it's a little bit easier to get them right at the bottom there after it's been crocheted around. So I'll add the feet on at that point. So right now we're going to join together these two panels. Okay, so to get started here, I'm just going to get my black yarn here because I'm going to be joining it together in the black. And I'm just going to make a slip knot with my black yarn and pull that not super tight because I want to be able to get back into it. And then I'm going to line up my two panels here so everything is in the same place, the top of the head, the spot where the neck is, and the bottom. And I'm going to join together. I'm just going to insert my hook right in through one of the stitches that lines up at the top of the head here. And then I'm just going to check to make sure everything's lined up the rest of the way down. And then I'm going to join my slip knot here. So I'm just going to pull that slip knot through both panels here to the front side of the project. I'm just going to leave that tail. I'm going to work over that yarn tail. So I pulled that through. I'm going to chain one, and then I'll work a single crochet in the same stitch. And then I'm going to keep working single crochet stitches all the way down the side of this penguin here, working one single crochet in each stitch at the end of each of the rows here. This is usually a lot easier to see in not black yarn. Black yarn is really hard to see the stitches here, but you're just you can see where they line up on the side, and you're just inserting your hook through the same stitch in both panels, making a single crochet, and then working your way all the way down. So I'll continue working this down here, and then when we get to the bottom, we'll see what that looks like there. Okay, so I've worked my way down all the way here towards the bottom. I just have a couple stitches left. When I get to this bottom corner here, I'm going to place 2 single crochet stitches in there, and then I'll continue to work my way across the bottom here, and then I'll work 2 single crochet stitches in the bottom corner stitch on this side, and that's just to help prevent it from curling. So one there, and then making sure that I pass through the bottom on both layers here. I'm going to work 2 stitches as I pass around that corner. Okay, so continuing to work my way across here along the bottom, and I'm not working at the very edge of the bottom, I'm kind of working into where the white stitches are, just passing my crochet hook in between each of these white stitches, and that's lining up with the stitch directly on the other side here. So just in here and then out there. So we'll continue like that all the way across the bottom. And then when we get to the edge there, we're going to work 2 single crochets into that corner stitch, which I'm just 1 stitch away from there. Okay, so now I'm at that corner there, and you can see that's kind of where you probably started your penguin. And again, the black yarn is so hard to see the stitches. There we go. So I did 2 stitches in that bottom corner, and now I'm going to work my way up the side here, making sure that each of the stitches on the front is lining up with the same one on the back. So we'll continue all the way up like that, and we're just going to go a little bit farther. I've just tucked that yarn tail inside here. We're going to go a little bit farther, and then I'm going to show you how to stuff the bottom part. We'll just go to where the neck is. We'll stuff the bottom part and then continue a little bit more around, and then we'll stuff the top part. Okay, so now we're back. We're just right where the neck is of the penguin. So we just have this part that has not been crocheted together, and we can get into this bottom area here. So I'm just going to use some stuffing here, and I'm just going to add some stuffing down in that bottom part of the penguin. And you don't need to add a whole lot of stuffing to ragdoll patterns here. It just depends on, I guess, how firm you'd like your stuffed. So I'm just using my finger to get it all into the corners there. And then we'll do a few more stitches up around the head, and then we'll tuck more stuffing into there. There we go. So I've stuffed that bottom section pretty good. I'll just throw a little more in there. Now just make sure you don't stuff yours so tight that you can see the stuffing bursting between the stitches, so you're stretching your little guy out. Okay, we'll just continue up the side here, up the side of the head, continuing with our 1 single crochet at the end of each row here. And it gets a little bit tighter to kind of get in there once your guy is stuffed and you're almost all the way around. Go, I'll just stop here for a sec, and then we'll add some more stuffing in that head area. Okay, we're going to continue just the rest of the way around the head. And you might have to kind of push the stuffing down with your finger as you go around. And we're just gonna go all the way to our first single crochet stitch. So we're just almost there. And then we'll just make a slip stitch in the top of that first single crochet there. So there we go, we're all done. And I'm just gonna fasten that off, cut my yarn, and then I'll weave in the ends. All right, so next I have the two little feet to sew onto the bottom here. So I'll show you how to do that. So I've just fed my yarn needle onto one of the tails of this little foot here, and I actually weaved the other yarn end in behind these stitches here, so I just have the one that I'm working with. And I'm just going to place this foot here at the edge of where the white and black meet here in the bottom row, and I'm just going to stick my yarn needle right through a few stitches. And then I'll come back through one of the stitches here. So that's just to secure it to start with here. And then I'll go in and out of each of the stitches, or just a few of the stitches around, just to secure it. And I don't want to pass my yarn all the way through my penguin, because then the stitches will be noticeable on the back here, which we don't want. So I'm just kind of passing my needle through just the front panel of the penguin, and then popping out in a different spot, and then grabbing another stitch here. All right, so this foot is almost secure here. I'm just gonna go through this one more stitch here on the side. And then I'll hide my yarn end by weaving in the tail, or just passing it into my penguin here. And I'll actually just pop out my needle on the back side here. There we go, and then I'll just cut that afterwards. So there's my one foot, and I'll just do the same thing for the second foot. Okay, so there is the penguin with the two little feet here, and I just cut those ends on the back there. So next I'm going to add a little bow to this penguin's head here. Okay, so here's the little bow that I'm going to sew on. If you'd like to learn how to make one of these bows, I do have the instructions and the written pattern on the blog, as well as I do have a video tutorial on my YouTube channel for making crochet bows too. So I'm just gonna sew this one on top of the head here. I'm just gonna place it where I'd like, and again I'm gonna try to keep it so I don't see the stitches on the back side of the penguin here. So I'm going to try to pass the yarn through just the front panel. Again, just like I did with the feet. And I'll weave that second yarn tail in too. Oops. And sometimes it's easier to flip your project all sorts of directions while you're sewing. There we go. All right, and you only need a few stitches to secure the bow. And then I'll pass those ends in through the penguin. And I might just travel it down just a little bit farther so it's a little bit more secure. And then I'll do the same thing with that second yarn tail too, just so that it's not visible. So I'll just cut this one. And if when you're cutting your yarn tail you see a little spot, sometimes I just take my yarn needle in and I just kind of sweep it back and forth, and that pulls that yarn end right in. So we got the little bow, and I'll sew this little end in as well. And next we're going to add a scarf to this penguin here, and I can also show you how to sew the ear muffs onto this guy here too. Okay, so next for the scarf, I just made a long chain and then worked single crochet stitches into each stitch across, and then just weaved in the ends, so the ends are hidden here. And then I just take this and tie it around the penguin. And there's lots of different ways to tie knots depending on how you want it to sit. I just did just sort of a normal knot. And then I'm just going to pull it over to the side a little bit. And then you can just kind of play around with how you want the ends to sit. And if they're not sitting the way you want, you could also sew a couple stitches through if you'd like to kind of hold the knot down. But these ones I didn't sew any knots in, so they just kind of are free to go wherever. So there's the scarf there. And then lastly, I will show you how to put earmuffs onto this penguin. If you would like to do that. And then after that, I'll show you quickly how to put the gift card pocket on the back if you'd like to do that. Okay, so for the earmuffs here, I have the two little circles. So those are going to get sewn on either side of the penguin's head here. And then I'll be using surface slip stitches to stitch across the top of the penguin, making the band that joins the two earmuffs together. So we'll start by sewing on one of those little circles. So I'll just line this up here. So I'm just placing the earmuff next to the eye here, maybe a little bit lower. And I'm just going to sew in and out of the stitches of the earmuff and then through the penguin here. And for this part here, when you do put the band around the top, you will see the stitches on the back. So it's not really a huge deal if you see a couple stitches showing through on the back here. Just depending on what your preferences are. And you just need a few stitches on each little ear circle, ear muff, to secure it. So there we go. Just going to pass down again through the stitches here and through the penguin. And again, like we've done with the other pieces, you can weave your end through into the middle of the penguin's body there, and then cut your yarn to secure the yarn tails. So there's one of the earmuffs there, and I do have a couple stitches showing through on the back there, but we will see it all along, so it won't really be that noticeable there. And then I'm just going to send this yarn tail through into the penguin here. And then I'll pop it out the back here. There. And I'll cut that. And then I'll be repeating the same for the other side, the other ear muff. There, and then I'll show you how to surface slip stitch across. Okay, so here are the two circles on the ear here. I keep bumping into the scarf, so it keeps loosening here. So there's the 2 circles, and now I'm going to show you how to surface slip stitch across the top there. Now I'm just going to do this semi-quickly, but if you want to see it in more detail too, on my snowman ragdoll pattern, there is a video on this YouTube channel that I show more detail how to do the surface slip stitches, but this will also give you a general idea too. So I'm just going to make a slip knot with my yarn. And then I'm going to take it off my hook here. I'm just holding it with my fingers. And I'm going to pass my crochet hook through one of the stitches behind the penguin's ear muff there. And I'm just going to put my slip stitch on, and I'm going to pull that through just to join it. And then I'm going to leave the tail here because I'll sew that in afterwards. And then I'm going to be working my surface slip stitches. So my yarn stays on the back of the penguin here. And I'm going to be working in each of the stitches across the top of the head here. So I'm going to insert my hook through the next stitch, grab my yarn, pull up the loop through the stitch, and then I'm going to make a slip stitch here. And then I'll do that again in the next one. Insert through the stitch, grab my yarn, pull it up here. Insert the next stitch, grab yarn, pull up the loop, pull through the loop for the slip stitch. So we'll just do that the whole way across there. And then this other tail, when we're done, we'll pull it tight and then we'll weave it in behind. So yeah, we're just gonna go all the way across the top of the penguin. And if you haven't done the surface slip stitch technique before, it is quite a fun one. I like to use it to write words, or if you check out my Crochet Merry and Bright pillow on my blog or on my YouTube channel, I use them to make little Christmas light strands between some crochet Christmas lights on a tapestry crochet pattern, so that's kind of fun too. So we're just going all the way across the top of the penguin's head here, one slip stitch in each. And then when I get back to the other side here, I'm just going to work in behind the ear muff here, just so that my end is not noticeable. I'm going to get one more stitch in there. There we go. And then I'll cut that yarn end here. And then just pull that through. There we go. So now your snowman has, or your ragdoll penguin has little ear muffs too, which is kind of cute. So those are all kind of different options that you can do with your penguin. If you like it with ear muffs, without, with a scarf, or without, or with a bow. Just depending on what you're interested in there. And I'm just going to weave in these ends, and then I'll show you the gift card pocket quick too. Okay, so now these penguins are pretty well done here. We have the scarf, the ear muffs, the bow. I just finished sewing in the ends there, so that's nice and tidy there. And now I was going to show you how to sew on the gift card pouch if that's something that you would be interested in. So I'll put it on the back of this guy here. I've made this little rectangle here out of black yarn, so that is in the crochet pattern here as an extra option on the written pattern on the blog. And I'm going to sew it to the back of the penguin here. And I just have some black yarn and my yarn needle here, or if you have some yarn tails hanging out from making this little pocket here, you can use that. And I'm just going to start in the top corner here of the pocket, and I'm just going to sew in and out of stitches down across the bottom and back up the other side, of course leaving the top open for the gift card. And again, we don't want to sew right through the penguin because then we will see those stitches on the front, so we're just going to go down through each stitch, and I kind of like to pass it into the top layer of the penguin and pull on it, and then back up through the stitch on the side of the pocket there. So we'll just go around the whole pocket here, just around the outside edge. So I'll continue sewing this pocket on and I'll show you what it looks like when it's all done. All right, so the pocket on the back is now all finished here. I'm not sure if you can see it with the black yarn on camera there, but there's the little pocket on the back. I went down both sides, across the bottom here, and then weaved in my ends. And I keep saying gift card pocket, but you could put a little candy cane in there, a little treat, or you could put a little gift card in if you want to give a little something extra. You get a little Crochet Penguin gift with a little gift card on the back. And there we go. So it's just tucked right in back there. And then you could also hang this guy on the Christmas tree if you put a loop of yarn on top to make him into a little ornament. And you don't have to put the pocket on the back. I think it's cute either way. Just lots of options for you with this crochet pattern. So as a reminder, you can find this free crochet pattern on the blog, loopsandlovecrochet.com. And I'd love it if you subscribe to this YouTube channel and follow Loops and Love Crochet on Facebook and on Instagram. Thanks for watching.